And we're talking about the religion of death. We're being brainwashed, not only politically, financially, socially, but spiritually and culturally. We're being brainwashed to believe in the religion of death. Neo-eugenics under the cloak of global warming and the myth of overpopulation. And we were playing the clips before the break of notorious criminal mastermind, the man who led the cult, the infamous Manson family that slaughtered 9 people in the summer of 1969. And Manson, from his prison cell in California, now has a new mission for his followers, and that is the mission of environmentalism and overpopulation, which as far back as the mid-80s, Manson communicated through these prison interviews when he said that the polar ice caps were melting because of CO2 and that we need to kill 50 million people in order to save the air, the water, the trees and the animals. And just by coincidence, the modern proponents of neo-eugenics, people like Al Gore, John P. Holdren, James Lovelock, are saying exactly the same thing as Charlie Manson. Does that concern us at all, that a man who masterminded the brutal slaughterings of 9 people and who has a swastika carved in his forehead has the same doctrines as the people who now run the environmental movement? Should that concern us at all? Let me know what you think. We'll take your calls in the next segment on 800-259-9231. That's 800-259-9231. So we played the clips of Manson, Charlie Manson, saying we need to kill 50 million people, and that's just a drop in the bucket of what's really coming. And he went further in other interviews, especially more recent interviews, in fact. For example, an interview with CNN, or a phone conversation that was obtained by CNN. Manson said that basically carbon dioxide is a sin and that we need to pay indulgences on it. He said we were sinning against the air. And all these documents and videos are linked from my article today on prisonplanet.com. So we see Charlie Manson embracing the same beliefs as Al Gore with the carbon tax. We see him embracing the same beliefs as John P. Holdren with the mass kill eugenics policy. And we also see him calling for a return to the agrarian age. In another interview, they interview one of his followers. That's right. I mean, Manson's got a new family now that move close to the prison and listen to his lectures on global warming. And, quote, Charlie says we need to get back to the horse. That's what one of Manson's followers said. So now he's preaching that we need to return to the agrarian age, the pre-1700 pre-industrial age, which is also something advocated by an author called Keith Farnish, who is a top environmentalist, and he wrote a book recently calling for acts of sabotage and environmental terrorism in blowing up dams and demolishing cities in order to return the planet to a pre-industrial society. Now, what's amazing about his book is it's endorsed by Dr. James Hansen, who is one of the most prominent environmentalists and scientists in America. He's, you know, he's the NASA guy. He's the big NASA guy, James Hansen. He endorses a book that calls for demolishing industrial society in the name of saving the planet. And this is similar rhetoric to what the murder mastermind Charles Manson now preaches to his new following from his jail cell in California. And of course, we're talking about this because last week, James J. Lee, this crazed gunman, went into the Discovery Channel building with explosives, took hostages, and we later learned that he did so because he wanted the Discovery Channel to air more programming about global warming. So these nutcases that are being influenced by this eugenicist propaganda, these people that have been inducted, who have bought the religion of death, are now out there acting on their crazed beliefs of overpopulation and man-made global warming by committing or attempting to commit acts of violence. We had the couple in Argentina who killed their own child. So I want to hear what you think about this when we come back after the break. We'll take your calls on the Alex Jones Show. What do you think about the religion of death and the fact that it's advocated by not only Holdren but also Charlie Manson? Stay tuned. We'll be back. This is the Alex Jones Show. It's the Alex Jones Show. Top story on prisonplanet.com today. Charles Manson, the infamous leader of the Manson family cult, is now a bedfellow of Al Gore. He's preaching the doctrine of man-made global warming and the myth of overpopulation. So what do you think about this religion of death, this neo-eugenics agenda, and how we're being induced into it by culture, by television, by advertising, by movies? We're going to go to your calls, and the first caller is David in Texas. David, you're on the air. What's on your mind today?
Hey, how's it going? Well, I want to stay on your subject matter. I'm dry calling because I get to rebroadcast at night, so I'm not listening to you live. But it doesn't surprise me. I mean, this is the direction it's been going for a long time, and what scares me is the things we don't know. So the fact that Manson's got on board on this, it doesn't surprise me at all. And the fact that they're giving him press. You know, the guy's locked up in jail. What do we even know what he's thinking anyway? The guy's in jail, you know, so it's a little odd that what he thinks matters to anybody, first of all. You know, the guy's in jail for a reason. But, no, it doesn't surprise me at all, and it's gonna get worse, I'm afraid, unless people wake up. I mean, a lot of people are listening to your program and waking up, but I'm not sure we're all waking up fast enough.
Well, what I find interesting about it is, you mentioned the fact, why are people listening to this guy? It's interesting that when the corporate media does get a chance to interview Manson, and the last television interviews were in the 80s because they actually banned them from interviewing him on camera, but CNN got these quotes from him and got this interview with his followers, I believe at the turn of the year, because it was Manson's 75th birthday. So they're still getting access to his rhetoric and his propaganda, and now he's kind of building up this new breed of followers to communicate this neo-eugenics message. But what's amazing is, whenever Manson rambles on at length, and to be fair, I mean, Manson's an intelligent guy. He's a sadist, and he brutally masterminded these murders, but he's an intelligent guy. But the media attack everything vaguely intelligent that he says, but when he talks about wanting to kill 50 million people because the environment's in trouble, that's the only point on which the media say, well, yeah, he's kind of got a point there. It's reasonable to want to kill people, to want to sterilize people, to solve overpopulation. So, I mean, Manson is now this kind of counterculture hero because he's been so derided and attacked by the establishment. But the establishment actually agrees with him that killing people for Mother Earth is reasonable, is rational. And now you've got a guy in the White House who believes the same thing. So that's what, is truly frightening to me about this story. Thanks for the call, David. We're going to move on to Wilson in Florida. Wilson, you're on the air.
Hey, good afternoon. It's just unfortunate. I didn't even know he was still alive, and it's just crazy to say, like I thought he was dead or he got killed, like sentenced to death. But it's unbelievable that he's still alive, and then on top of that, they're like almost using his words to help like influence people and stuff, And I just think it's unfortunate that people are easily influenced, because even some of my closest friends and family don't understand the true agenda, but I've came across like teachings that they believe themselves that the world is too overpopulated, and it's just unbelievable. And I just have one question for you: at what point do you think the world will become actually a threat of being overpopulated? Because I don't think no time soon will the world, there's a whole bunch of places people could live. I don't think it'll be anytime soon, for maybe hundreds of years. But at what point do you think the population might be too severe?
Well, that's what I was talking about earlier, is the fact that if you look at the charts which the UN has produced in terms of world population, And in actual fact, if you go on prisonplanet.com and search for the overpopulation myth, you can see these charts. And what the charts show is that the birth replacement rate rises and then falls down to 2.1. And this is worldwide. This is not just in third world countries. So by 2050, the world's population reaches a stage where it cannot replace itself. So you will only get a rise in population until 2050, and then after that it starts dropping off dramatically. And what's ironic about all this is the fact that these environmentalists are publicly on the record about how they want to destroy industrialized society, when in fact the only thing that has proven to naturally balance population levels in poor countries is industrialism itself, is those countries getting richer. So by calling for this deindustrialization process, this post-industrial revolution, as Bilderberg calls for, they are in fact ensuring that global population will increase. If the third world remains poor and destitute, then population will begin to increase. But if we allow these poor countries to develop, then their populations will naturally balance out, and after 2050, the population will begin to fall. So that's where the numbers are heading, according to the UN's own figures. And we've got graphs and links to The Economist, which reported on that, which you can check out by typing in the overpopulation myth on prisonplanet.com. So we're going to move on to our next caller, which is Tom in New York. Tom, you're on the air.
Hello, Paul.
Yeah, what's on your mind today, Tom?
That correlation is potentially very huge, you know, as far as Manson and Gore. If that could be promoted and with, well, nice documentary, icing that cake, man, that would set them back, because that is huge. But how long has he been espousing these views, Manson?
Manson has been espousing these views since, as far as I know, at least 1987, which was when one of the first interviews was conducted with him by, I believe it was NBC. And they refused to show the original interview because the content was so shocking. But in 2007, they broadcast the entire interview, which you can watch from the article on prisonplanet.com. So Manson was espousing this global warming rhetoric as early as 1987, which is, of course, before Al Gore came on the scene. But if you listen to his comments now, his more recent comments about emitting CO2 being a sin against life, a sin against the earth, that's exactly what Gore advocates with this carbon tax and this whole indulgence thing related to global warming. And what amazes me furthermore about it, we had a previous caller talking about how Manson still has followers, and in fact now has a growing army of followers. And what's amazing to me is, if you go and watch these videos on YouTube of these prison interviews with Manson, where he talks about needing to kill 50 million people, then you go and read the comments underneath the interviews, and the majority of people not only idolize Manson, but they agree specifically that we need to kill millions of people in order to save the earth. So, I mean, this message is getting out there, and it's taking hold more so than global warming itself, which is increasingly being discredited. But another example of how people are jumping on this bandwagon, we played the clip earlier of Manson saying, we've got to get a one-world government. That's what he said in response to how we need to solve these environmental problems. And if you go to all these disgusting fan websites which have been set up for Manson by his followers today, for example, there's one called, uses the acronym for ATWA, which is Air, Trees, Water and Animals. It's Manson's environmental creed. And on its front page, there's an image of the world surrounded in flames with the words one world order written underneath. And then there's further links on this Manson fan website where he talks about how we need to live a green lifestyle in pursuit of this one world order.